Now, last year, South Africans participated in at least 86 protected and unprotected labour protests, and the majority of these took place in the public service sector over pay. Stats published by the Casual Workers Advice Office show that 38 of the protests were wildcat strikes, while 48 were protected. To discuss this further, I am joined by Education Officer at the Casual Workers Advice Office, Sydney Moshoaliba. Thank you very much for your time here, Sydney. Just tell me, what does this then communicate in terms of the fact that it was mostly government workers who were on strike last year?
Yes, quite clearly, this has been a series. Let me thank you for the opportunity and to the viewers at home. This has been a series of events building up where government at some point took a decision to renege from the collective bargaining agreements. And that led to a huge frustration in the public sector unions. And as you can see now, it's escalating to wildcat strikes because there are unpaid bonuses, there are unpaid allowances, there are complaints about unpaid overtime. And it's escalating in the public sector because of the lack of governance in most of these state institutions.
Now, one of the biggest ones that were unprotected actually was the Eskom strike, which was blamed at some point, on the power cuts were blamed on that strike for quite some time. But does this also not communicate that we've reached a boiling point in South Africa when it comes to people's livelihoods and people not being able to take the excuses from their employers anymore, who say there simply is no money to give them salary increases, etc.?
Exactly. This is the boiling point because the price of commodities is going up on a regular basis. Every time you open the TV on the news, you hear about escalating cost of living. And therefore, the workers themselves as consumers are impacted by these unrelenting commodity increases. And therefore, on the other hand, you have the employer who is not willing to come to the party in terms of alleviating the burden of price increase, whereby the employer will simply say, this year you only get 0% wage increase. And how are you going to survive with a zero? It means you're getting no increase at all. 0% means you're getting no increase at all. And it's difficult for people to cope now. I think it's going to escalate if that workers are facing in general. I agree with you. It's exactly a boiling point. We've reached a boiling point.
And Mr. Moshoaliba, you've also mentioned in your report, for instance, that, the number of people who are assassinated, for instance, while planning a strike, or the number of people who were killed during a strike, allegedly by police officers, has also increased, with 17 people having gone through that just in 2022 alone. We all know the issue when it comes to how police handle protests in South Africa, and that has been described as problematic. Do you see this trend worsening when you look at your report from last year's protests?
Yes, we've seen this escalating because, you see, workers, when they make demands, they make genuine demands. And when they go on strike because these are genuine demands. And even if you engage at the level of mediation and conciliation at the CCMA, the employers, quite clearly, they are under pressure to recognize these genuine demands. But because employers are scrupulous and employers are dirty in many instances, they then go on and hire private security companies And these private security companies are foreign mercenaries who are deal with the of strikes, but only to attack and kill workers. And this has been happening in many areas where workers go on strike on genuine demands, and only the employer employs private security mercenaries to come and attack and intimidate workers. So that is also part of the plan from the side of the employers, whereby there is a conflict of interest in terms of who's losing business and who's leading the strike.
All right, Mr. Moshoaliba, thank you very much for your time here on ENCA. That was Education Officer at the Casual Workers Advice Office, Sydney Moshoaliba.